In this video, I'm going to share with you the 4 steps to getting your first rent-to-rent deal. If you don't know what a rent-to-rent is, I've done many videos about this. I'm going to leave in the description explaining what a rent-to-rent is. But effectively, it's when you rent a property, you take control of a house, you get the keys for the house, putting down very little, if any money at all, and then you have permission to rent the property out at a higher amount, meaning that you're getting a monthly cash flow, an income from the property without owning it. This is such a good way to build your portfolio and start getting a cash flow coming in and to replace your income without actually having the deposit to go and start buying houses. It gives you experience, it gives you good cash flow, it gets your foot in the door, and ultimately gives you an opportunity to be able to leave your job with a full-time income through property without buying anything. Control is sometimes better than ownership. So if you like my videos, do me a favor, hit the like button, share the video around, and drop a comment below, and I'll try and read every single one and respond to as many as I can. But in this video, it's about the 4 steps to actually getting your first deal. So the first thing you need is you need a game plan. When you're starting out, you need to be thinking, okay, hold on, what am I actually wanting to do here? Am I gonna be renting a property and then renting it out on a room by room basis and pushing the rent up that way? Am I gonna be renting a property and putting it on booking.com and Airbnb and renting it out on short stay lets? Am I gonna be utilizing housing associations? What's your actual plan, your strategy of pushing the rent up and getting your first rent to rent? So there's different options, but you need to think, what's the most congruent with your skills? Maybe if you're really into interiors and you love making things look pretty, serviced accommodation might be a good method. Maybe if you are currently living in a HMO and you're thinking, damn, I'm paying £500 a month rent, as is my housemate, you've got a bit of experience and understanding in HMO. You might be thinking, well, I could just rent a house, turn it into a HMO, and profit from all the extra rent. So what's your game plan? What's your strategy? Also, what's your area? I would suggest working in an area where you know the area well. You know what the demand is like. You know what the supply is like. And most importantly is you need to actually set up a company. Now this can be done for £12 on Company's House, and it takes literally about 20 minutes to go through this process. But you need a company because this will give you protected limited liability. So get your foundations set up, your insurance is set up. Also, you might want to think about your references. Have you got any landlord references? Can you afford? Are you in a job? Can you afford to get through that? Because normally you'll be expected to earn considerably more than the rent that you're paying. So if your salary is really low and you're looking at expensive properties, are you going to pass the references or do you need a guarantor? So the first thing is getting your game plan, because ultimately, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Step 2 is about being sold on the service of rent to rent before you sell it to others. What do I mean by that? Well, effectively, when you're paying landlords guaranteed monthly rent, when you're saying, look, I'll pay you £1,000 a month for the next 3 years, rather than thinking, and then I'll make loads of money, you need to be thinking, no, this is not about you for a minute. Why is this a good service for the landlord? One of the things that I do on my rent-to-rent accelerator training is I make my students list all the reasons for why a rent-to-rent would actually benefit the landlord. And there's so many reasons. I mean, the landlord hasn't got multiple tenants. The landlord is completely passive. The landlord doesn't necessarily need a management company, so they're saving on costs. The landlord isn't going to have late payments. They know what's coming in. Maybe you could offer the landlord that you'll pay any light maintenance. You could do a small refurb of the property if budget allows. So what are all the things that you can offer to the landlord? Why wouldn't the landlord just rent it out themselves on a room-by-room basis or a serviced accommodation? Well, maybe they haven't got the time, they haven't got the inclination. So you're offering a service to the landlord so that you're giving them rent, they know what's coming in, of course they know that you're gonna make a profit, but the second step is being really sold on the service, because you can't sell a landlord unless you're sold yourself first. Step 3, this is the hard bit, this is the bit that most people are afraid to do, is you need to actually go and present the opportunity to as many landlords and agents as you can. Now, you are going to get rejected. There are going to be some letting agencies that say, sorry, we don't do that. We don't do company lets. There's going to be some landlords that are uncomfortable with the idea of having people in and out their house. So once you've got your company set up and you've got your game plan and you've really sold yourself on the service of what you're doing, you need to go and start pitching and presenting this to landlords. Now, a lot of people get really bummed out because they say, Samuel, I've been ringing landlords and no one's interested. And I'll say, well, hang on a minute. How many landlords have you actually spoken to? And they'll say, maybe 5 or 10. Okay, which one? 5 or 10? 5. And I'll go, let me see. And I'll go through their phone book and it's 4. So they've spoken to 4 landlords and they've quit. And how long does it take to speak to a landlord and say, hey, I'm looking to rent your property. It's going to be a company let. This is what I can offer. And before the landlord says, no, I'm not interested. Like a minute? So they've spent 4 minutes trying to get a rent to rent and now they want to quit. You need to prepare yourself mentally for this. If you're climbing a mountain, it's going to be very difficult climbing a mountain if you prepare for a walk around the garden, because you're going to be like, man, I'm tired. But if you're like, no, this is going to take me 12 hours to get to the top. It's going to be hard work. It's going to be exhausting. I'm going to feel like quitting, but I'm going to prepare myself mentally. It's the same. When you go to get a rent to rent, you've got your company set up, you've got your game plan, you're sold on the service, but then you need to be like, right, I need to speak to 50 people every week, which is only going to take me a few hours a week, and I'm going to do that like climbing a mountain. And this is my mountain. I'm getting to the top. Every time I get a no, I'm one step closer to my yes, and I'm only going to need a yes, one yes, to potentially make me an extra £1,000 a month. Which brings me on to next step, which is step 4. The 4th step is when you do get a landlord that says, I'm open to it. Yeah, I'm cool. Come and have a look round. The 4th step is putting forward your offer, doing your research and viewing the property. It's actually sealing the deal. And for this step, you're going to need to act very, very simple, which is on formulas. You need to work out how much rent is the landlord asking for. Let's say the landlord's asking for £1,000 a month and it's a 4-bed house. And you know that you could rent the house out on a room by room basis. Maybe it's already a HMO. It's already set up as a HMO. But you're offering £1,000, well, you need to actually work backwards. Before you put forward your offer, you need to think, how much rent could I get for this property in total? If I could get £500 a room, that's £2,000. Next, who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to be paying the council tax? Where's my profit in all of this? Because if you're paying £1,000 and you're getting £2,000 a month rent, but that doesn't include void periods, bills, council tax, management, you might only actually be left with £200 or £300 a month. So the 4th step is make sure that every time you get a deal, your profit will be a minimum of £500 a month. If you're not making £500 a month, walk away, because quite frankly, it's not worth the hassle. And also you need to have a buffer in there so that if you've got some empty rooms or some things happen, you've got your £500 a month buffer. If it's more than that, amazing, but you need to be making £500. And the second step to the formula is you need to have made all your initial money back within the first 6 months. So if you're doing a refurb, for example, or you're getting furniture, don't spend £10,000 on furniture and carpets when you're making £500 a month. Because that's only going to give you £6,000 in the first year. Why would you spend £10,000 to then make £6,000 after a whole year of a property that you don't own? You need to make all of your money back within the first 6 months. Those are the 4 steps. Get a game plan. Next, understand what you're offering to the landlord and what value it is. Next, get out there and start putting offers forward in a professional way. And then 4th, make sure that you do your due diligence, your market research, you formulate your offer properly, and you'll make a minimum of 100% of your money back within 6 months, plus £500 a month as a minimum monthly profit. Hope that helps. Smash the like button if it did. I'll see you next time.